Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Barta, can you describe your own situation, particularly the choices you've had to make for you and your family when deciding where to direct the money you have? And also, um, would you describe how you think your life could change if you were able to discharge your student loans through bankruptcy?
Yes, ma'am. It has affected us very much so. Right now, since I had to file for bankruptcy in 2012 and still have the student loan debt over my head, our house is strictly in my husband's name. Vehicles are strictly in my husband's name. My student loans are in forbearance right now. Well, for the pandemic, they're stopped. But if I had to pay those, there's no way I could pay $1,000 a month back in raising two kids. If I had been able to file bankruptcy, then we could have got a better house, because I would have been able, after 10 years to put my name on the house also, be able to get a vehicle in my own name. But instead, I have to rely on my husband's credit for all that.
So, Ms. Barter, you're describing a situation in which this loan is a continual burden that colors a lot of your
Yes, ma'am.
what is happening with your family.
Yes, ma'am. Very much so.
So, Ms. Gonzalez, you deal with people who are in the kind of situation that Ms. Barta is in. How would the lives of the people that you work with, how would their lives change if they could discharge their loans?
Um, it would their lives would significantly improve. We would probably have people who would be more able to afford even, the tiniest room in the tiniest house, so that they have their own place to live, as opposed to burdening their friends and families with couch surfing, or living with someone else. We would probably have student borrowers who were able to do something that I think a lot of us take for granted: save for emergencies, save for retirement. So many of my clients do not have a safety net because any income they have goes to their IDR payment.
So, in your testimony, although if undue hardship can be shown, but that's a very high burden to the point where only a few of your clients even meet that burden. So, we should look at making some changes to maybe defining what we mean, or I don't know, but we need to deal with that. So, Mr. Rowell, I note that for-profit colleges enroll only 9% of students, but account for 30% of all student loan defaults, and you have gone after these institutions, many of whom just file for bankruptcy and they totally escape all responsibility. I'm wondering whether there can be a criminal statute that applies to this kind of behavior.
Well, you know, legislatures can propose all sorts of remedies towards various problems. So I haven't given much thought to criminal penalties, but the notion of having some vehicle towards disgorgement of those ill-earned
Yes.
profits is, and the statistics that you mentioned, and Trinidad, there's been some discussion about responsibility of higher education institutions generally, but it's important to note that 98% of the higher education institutions that have failed a gainful employment rule were for-profit institution, 98%.
So there is I would say, a lot of evidence that for-profit colleges and the degrees that emanate from those colleges do not amount to very much in terms of the ability of their graduates for employment. So you talk about disgorgement. Yes, you mentioned that a lot of these entities make a lot of money, millions of dollars, doing this, and then when they're finally caught and prosecuted by somebody like you, they just escape through bankruptcy. So I would ask you to give some thought to whether or not we can criminalize or create an ability for us to claw back some of the money that they've made over time. So if there's that kind of legislation, I'd be really interested, because it's one thing to support more Pell Grants, for example, and I'm one of the leaders in more Pell Grants, but it seems to me the more we make those kinds of avenues available, it just allows these for-profit colleges to continue to raise their tuition, and it's a vicious cycle. Thank you.